Graham G. Matthews here with Bleacher Report and fan side of the head of NXT No Mercy coming up on Saturday, September 30th. NXT Women's Championship match now made official between the current champion Becky Lynch, former champion Tiffany Stratton, who we're chatting with here today. Tiffany, thanks for joining me. How you doing today?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's been a few months since we last chatted. Obviously, a lot has changed since then. You were not the NXT Women's Champion at that point. You were days away from becoming champion, no longer the champion. How crazy have the last couple of months been for you?
It has been extremely life-changing. I feel like I have grown so much in such a short amount of time, and I'm excited to see what the future holds.
Well, it might be another reign as NXT Women's Champion if you have your way. Come No Mercy against Becky Lynch. But like I said, the reign literally just ended. We're fresh off of it a week after the match with Becky, which was a great match. Did big numbers for NXT. In your opinion, just talk about your time as champion. Wasn't too short, wasn't too long, only a couple months. Obviously, I'm sure you wish you could have been champion for a little bit longer, but just give me your honest assessment of how you feel you did as the NXT Women's Champion in the time you held that title.
I definitely feel like the number one thing that I took away from being champion was just kind of growing as a character, as a wrestler, as a performer. I definitely feel like, my feud with Thea Hale was a little bit rocky here and there, but I prevailed in the end. I never tapped out. Um, and yeah, I just feel like I ultimately have just grown as a whole.
And you've been able to do a lot of different things. I mean, the match with Becky headlined NXT last week. It was the main event of the show. Even the match with Thea Hale, which was, a much bigger program than I think people were anticipating. You had that one match on TV with her, and then the second match was on the Great American Bash special, a submission match, no less. Have there been any big things that you've learned from your time as champion in the last couple months that you may not have known 6 months ago?
Yeah, I've definitely learned, never take anything for granted. It can change on a dime. And like I said, I've just kind of just grown as a performer and as a person altogether.
I mean, it's hard to not learn from someone like Becky Lynch just being in the ring with her. And again, it was just a week ago you lost the title, but you guys have already had so many matches in that time between that first match, which was great, last night on NXT, the tag team match, and people have seen the footage of you guys working together on the house shows and stuff like that. Again, it's only been a week, but I guess not only from an in-ring standpoint, but from like the interactions you guys have had on TV, maybe learning anything from like a character promo standpoint, whatever it might be. Has there been any big takeaways so far from working with Becky and just being able to work with someone that's been around for so long?
Yeah, I mean, obviously just being in the ring with Becky is such a huge thing for me. I feel like it's such a big like thing for me in my career. But I've learned a lot from Becky. She's definitely taught me a lot. She definitely pushed me in the couple of matches that we've had. And I mean, it's hard not to learn from someone like Becky. She's one of the greatest women's wrestlers, I think, of all time. And yeah, it's been an amazing 2 weeks for sure.
What's like your mindset compared to like when you go into a program like the one that you're in right now with Becky, or a match, the match, being last week, and then coming out of it, going into it, you're working with, like you said, one of the best, not just in WWE currently, but arguably one of the greatest of all time. Grand Slam Becky, she's calling herself now. And then coming out of it, how do you feel you did in that match, proving that again, you didn't come out the victor, unfortunately, but proving you can hang with one of the best ever. And then again, going into the match, maybe the pressure or just knowing you'll live up to it, the confidence. What's the mindset like compared to going into it versus coming out of it?
Going into it, I was for sure had a little bit of a imposter syndrome. I think that's what you call it. Kind of like doubting yourself, like why me? I've only been in this business for 2 years. But honestly, like when the pressure is on, that's when I deliver. That is like when I thrive, and I think my gymnastics background has helped me with that so much. But going into it, like I definitely was a little bit, timid and scared and, not as confident because she is one of the greatest of all time. But I proved that I can hang with her, and I brought my everything in that match, and she pulled the best out of me. But coming out of it, I definitely had a huge confidence boost. I definitely feel like I'm on top of the world right now, even without my title.
Mhm.
Like I really haven't lost anything from that performance and from losing my title. But yeah, like I said, I'm definitely much more confident now, and yeah, I feel like I can conquer the world.
I think a lot of people, not just, wrestlers, but a lot of people listening could definitely relate to the imposter syndrome in a number of different situations. For you personally, is that something that you're new to coming into, a situation like that with Becky, or is that something that you've dealt with before, not only in your wrestling career, but again, the gymnastics and other assets of life?
Yeah, I would say that I've actually, I don't know, I feel like, the recent push and everything, I definitely felt like at first I was like, "Oh my gosh, like there's so many eyes on me. Like
Hmm.
what if, like I'm actually not ready for this? What if I'm actually, like it's too soon, or I'm just getting into the business. It's only been 2 years in, like why me?" But then on the other hand, I have to like think and really just say like, okay, they are pushing me for a reason. Like I'm performing well. I try to make sure I'm very prepared. Like I feel like preparation is key. And yeah, I've dealt with imposter syndrome, but every time like it comes on, like I just kind of prove to myself that I belong there, and yeah.
Like, is there any one stamp of approval, I guess, whether it not just be from fans or the audience, but like someone of your peers or like management? Shawn Michaels is your boss, which is wild. I mean, like, just thinking about that and the amount of people on your side right now as champion coming out of that match last week, the praise that's online again, and social media can be obviously toxic sometimes, but just hearing a lot of the praise from your performance. And again, prior to that point, you holding your own as champion, not only living up to the standard that people expected it from you, but exceeding those expectations. Is there any stamp of approval or praise that you've heard, again, from peers or anyone that's helped with that imposter syndrome and kind of help you realize, yeah, I am worthy of the push that I'm getting right now?
Yeah, definitely whenever you come back from a match, Shawn Michaels is always right there. And you can always tell when he loves the match. He always goes like
Hmm.
this, or you can always tell that when he loves the match. And I definitely think when he does that, it's definitely like, okay, we just had a banger match.
Yeah. But did you were able to get any of that when you went to Raw recently? Not only just Raw, but I think it was at least once you appeared on the show, Payback as well, an entirely new audience, and not only in terms of fans being there, of course, and new eyes on you, but just people backstage, obviously Triple H there, Vince, people like that. Any, again, not advice, but I guess any interactions you had, important interactions that really stuck with you during the brief, periods that you've appeared on Raw and pay-per-views in recent weeks?
Yeah, I actually had Paul Heyman come up to me, and he said that I did a really good job in my backstage with Becky with holding my own, and yeah, just like holding my own and being able to stand out even with Becky Lynch right there next to me. So, yeah.
Does appearing on Raw, it kind of, I guess, maybe eventually helps pave the way for when you do inevitably get called up, whenever that might be. But I guess being there for that one appearance and again, a payback as well, does that kind of give you like some reassurance? Like when I get there at some point, and now I kind of know, again, you weren't only there for a couple nights, obviously, but like being there eventually, now you kind of know what the environment is like backstage, people being there and how different or how similar it might be to NXT.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's reassuring for sure to know that they kind of been, putting me in on Raw and giving me backstages here and there. But yeah, it's definitely been just reassuring, and I'm really excited to, one day get called up. I hope it's soon, but whenever it's right, I will be ready. And yeah.
I mean, yeah, going off of that, just the confidence that you've had in comments and making, like talking about the main roster call up. And before you've said in the past, like, I still need to work on this and that, which you don't hear a lot of people say, which it's really humbling to hear that from someone such as yourself early on in your career. Obviously, that day is coming. That day could be coming soon, obviously. Like you said, it could be on the sooner side. How has your mindset changed with that in the last 6 months compared to, again, prior to maybe stand and deliver when you're an important character on the show? But now that you've been champion, you're no longer champion, you're working with someone that's already on Raw. Does it get to a point where it's like, all right, I'm ready like tomorrow? I want them to call me tomorrow. Or are you at a point where it's like, all right, I'll just enjoy my time while I'm here, while I have it?
Yeah, I definitely think that's where I'm at. I'm kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna enjoy my time here. Like I know it's going to happen one day, so we're just gonna, enjoy the time I have down here. And I feel like with wrestling, you can always get better. Like
Mhm.
there's never going to be an aspect of wrestling where you're perfect at it. So I just take everything I do in NXT and I make sure I do it as well as possible. I'm trying to get better every day. And when they want to call me up, I'm sure it's going to be the right moment.
Are there any new goals that you've added to your list, at least as far as NXT specifically? I mean, becoming champion has got to be number one for a lot of people. You've now done that, but I think maybe a goal, it's not a goal, I guess, for a lot of people, but being in the main event of NXT and then getting the highest, being partially responsible for one of the highest ratings in NXT in recent years, that's probably a goal I don't think many people have until you've accomplished that, if that makes sense. I mean, that's pretty remarkable when you think about it.
Yeah, I didn't even realize how high the ratings were that night until I saw all the Twitter. I saw all over Twitter that apparently it was the highest in 3 years since I think October of 2020. But yeah, I feel like my goals right now would definitely be to get called up.
Mhm.
But for right now, I feel like my short-term goal is to become a Tippy 2 times NXT Women's Champion in about a week, I think. Yeah, a week
10
from
days
Saturday.
from now, as we speak right now. Yeah, exactly. Coming up on September 30th. And I guess talking about that match, that first match was so good. I think people were already expecting a good match from you too, because it's not like it's the first good match they've had in NXT. You've had a lot of good matches. Becky's obviously had a lot of great matches. People were expecting a lot. It delivered. What can we expect in the rematch? I guess from you specifically is now going into it the challenger compared to the champion. I assume you're obviously more prepared this time around now, knowing what it's like to be in the ring with Becky Lynch.
Yeah, I'm definitely more prepared now. I've been studying. Like I've had a match with Becky Lynch. I know what she brings to the table, but it's an Extreme Rules match, so anything can happen. And I'm ready to show, the NXT world, the WWE world, that there's a different side to me, and I'm gonna bring it out. I know mercy.
Between Stand and Deliver, Battleground, where you became champion, and then the Great American Bash show as well. You've been on all these NXT, live specials this year, all in front of bigger crowds. Is that something that you're used to, competing in front of the bigger crowds outside of the NXT arena? Like, how is that process going for you?
Uh no, I wasn't used to it at all. I feel like I did my entrance at Stand and Deliver, and I was like immediately like, whoa, what is going on here?
Yeah.
But it was really cool. Like, honestly, I love the bigger crowds. I prefer it actually. But there was a moment at Battleground where I was like, whoa, this is insane. It was when I was in the match and I believe I had just ram Lyra into the post and I had to break the count real quick. So I rolled back into the ring and I just went like this. And the entire arena just like erupted. And I was like, what the heck? I was not expecting that. So I definitely feel like the bigger crowds are so much cooler to wrestle in front of.
And that's what it's going to be like in No Mercy with the bigger audience. And again, 800,000 viewers for NXT, the highest rating in 3 years. Does that add more pressure to your performance? Does it make you like, all right, more people are watching, I have a higher standard to deliver? Or you just kind of try to take it with like, all right, this isn't that big of a deal. I mean, it's a big deal, but it's not that big of a deal. And I could still go out there and do my thing.
Yeah, I definitely think there's more pressure with more people watching, but I also feel like it's a good thing for me to have more eyes on me because like now I can show everybody and I can show more of, the world, what I bring to the table and who Tiffany Stratton is.
Going forward, I mean, the NXT women's division right now is so much buzz around it between yourself, Becky being champion, new acquisitions. Obviously, the rumors running rampant in the last couple of days. Jade Cargill, potentially WWE bound, if you're familiar with her from elsewhere, obviously. A lot of new names may be coming to NXT. Maybe not just her specifically, but when you hear about these new people coming to now your division as the former champion, your thoughts on that and how it could eventually either benefit NXT and just get more eyes on the product, I guess.
Yeah, I think bring them all in. I mean, we are always needing new wrestlers, I feel like. But as far as like competition, I am in my own lane. Like bring them in, let's go. Yeah, I'm not intimidated in the slightest. I'm excited for the future of the women's roster in NXT. I feel like we have a lot of talent and a lot of talent that hasn't even debuted yet.
Yeah, there's a whole landscape of the division that has just drastically changed from even a couple of months ago when you first became champion. Is there more that you would like to see in the division as far as maybe not just the presentation itself, but different faces featured or more of a certain thing, more or less of a certain thing? I mean, because you guys were the main event. So obviously, I think things are going pretty well for the NXT women's division right now. But any overall thoughts on the division as far as how you think it could be maybe even better improved going forward?
I definitely think Sean, he does a tremendous job of, giving the females a big spotlight down at NXT. We get long matches, we get a lot of TV time, and we have so many faces. I feel like that is on the show. So I feel like Sean is doing a great job right now of, highlighting the women's division for sure.
And last question for you, Tiffany. Obviously, in the last couple of months, the commentators branding you as the Barbie of NXT. I mean, capitalizing on the success of the film from over the summer. Not only your thoughts on the movie itself, but like, is that something you're fully embracing at this point as part of your character? Like, we have the font now, the Tiffany Stratton font in Barbie, unless that was already a thing and I'm just forgetting. But it's cool that you're capitalizing off the success of the movie you already had over the summer. And I guess your thoughts on incorporating that further into your character going forward.
Yeah, so I've actually been pitching like the Barbie thing for a while. I actually wanted to be called the Buff Barbie doll, but
Interesting.
yeah, so I actually was a bodybuilder before coming to wrestling, and I got on like the little Snapchat like live stories where
Yep.
sometimes people go viral on. I had someone do like a little Snapchat thing on me, and it was like all my lifting videos and me like flexing and stuff, and they called me the Buff Barbie doll. So, and it was right before I got signed, and I kind of wanted to make that my gimmick and
Mm-hmm.
and they said that they couldn't like trademark
Yeah.
Barbie and stuff like that. So it didn't really work at the time, but I think now because the Barbie movie that it's just a really good time for me to kind of incorporate the Barbie font and the pink gears and
Yeah.
yeah.
You can mention it on promos. Maybe you can't put on a T-shirt necessarily, I guess, for trademark purposes. But listen, if the commentators can call you that's still pretty cool. Maybe something we can get going amongst the audience. But before that, though, we got No Mercy coming up on Saturday, September 30th. Yourself and Becky for the NXT Women's Championship Part 2. I'm looking forward, Tiffany. Again, congrats on all the success going forward. I'm looking forward to the match.
Thank you so much for having me.